Hi everybody, Tayson here. Going to give you a quick overview of where we're at with the Google Drive. Want to make a few changes, and this can be a good refresher. To access your Google Drive through your email, you can come up to the 9 dots here and click on the Drive icon, and this will bring up your Google Drive. You'll want to click on My Drive to access everything you've uploaded. Right now, this is unlimited storage, so a great place to store files and so forth. The two files I'd like to see in everybody's Google Drive includes your transactions and your representation agreements. Your transactions you already have, and if you recall, you were able to share that by right-clicking on it, scrolling down to Share, clicking on the Share button, and adding info@tetonvalleyrealty.com as a viewer. That way, none of your files can be mistakenly deleted, but they can be viewed. I'd like to make sure everybody adds, and some of you have called this a listing file, some of you already have this. Let's change the name of this to representation agreements in lieu of the upcoming changes, because we're going to have both seller and buyer representation agreements for every transaction. When we open that, then, as you'll see, the way I have this set up, I'd like you to do the same. Buyer agreements and seller agreements. Seller agreements are your listings, and so I have active, closed, expired, and I've got a few that I need to file properly. So you can file by dragging and clicking, or you can do that on your desktop. I'll show you that in a minute. So I've got active, closed, expired, and then I'm going to have legacy because everything from my previous files I also had in my Google Drive. Back to representation agreements. Now we'll also have buyer agreements, and I want to see active, closed, and expired in here as well. Obviously, active agreements can be placed in individual listing folders, and just like the seller representation agreements here, I name those by the person of which we represent. So, for example, Archer. And then everything pertinent to that is in one handy location, including my seller representation agreement and any associated addenda and property information. If I want to move these files around, it's a little more challenging to do this within the Google Drive, so I'll show you a shortcut with the desktop app. But before I do, let's just make sure that we have this shared with the info@Teton Valley Realty, so I'm going to refresh you on that. We just did this a moment ago. Click on Share, and we're going to make sure that info@TetonValleyRealty.com is selected as a viewer, and we can go ahead and click Send. That's the transaction and representation agreement folders in a nutshell. That being said, working inside of Google Drive in your Gmail can be a little bit clunky. You're welcome to do this in another format, and I'll show you that. For example, if I have a transaction and it's in my Open Transactions folder, and I want to move that to closed, the only way I can do that is by clicking on the 3 dots or right-clicking it and clicking Organize. So we can click on Move, and we can go through the workflow here. I would probably want to move this to closed so I can view the contents of transactions and click Move here to closed. It works, but there's an easier way with the desktop, which I believe you all are using now. I'm going to go ahead and click Cancel because that's still an active transaction. So again, I've got Tayson Rockefeller representation agreements. This would be replaced with your name, of course, and then my transactions. As we look at my Google Drive, I do have Google Drive for desktop. This is on a Windows computer. I believe it works similarly for a Mac computer, and I put the shortcut directly on my desktop. When I double click on that, it will open just like a file in Windows. And everything that was in my Google Drive is here. So moving things around the workflow is a little bit easier. So transactions as an example, I can simply come down, open Google Drive again, And let's say I want to move something from the open transaction, so I can come and have two files open here at once, Tayson Rockefeller transactions. I'll have open transactions down here on the bottom, closed on top. I can take this entire file that we saw in the Google Drive and just drag it over here, and that'll automatically sync up with my Google Drive. So I find this workflow to be a little bit better, and then obviously, as most of you know, you have a Google Drive application you can install on your smartphones and access all of your documents there. Very handy. Again, if we can all make sure that we have transactions, which includes open, closed, expired, and referral agreements, as well as representation agreements, which includes buyer and seller, and once again, active, closed, and expired in your buyer and seller folders, that would be appreciated. Thanks a lot.